Finally, we're on our third salsa, our third and final salsa, Salsa Chipotle Tomatillo. Obviously, you need tomatillos. And if you watched salsa number 1 and 2, you've seen this clip before because I was roasting all of my vegetables for all 3 salsas at one time. These vegetables will need to roast in a 425-degree oven. The garlic will only take about 15 minutes to soften, so you'll be taking it out ahead of the other vegetables. After 15 or so more minutes, your vegetables will be roasted and ready to go. Let them cool. And then you're going to use 2 pounds of your tomatillas. You can peel them or not peel them. I kind of did a half and half. Now, because I was sharing my tomatillas between 2 salsa recipes, I had to go ahead and puree it first in my food processor. If you're making the salsa chipotle tomatilla and that's all you're making, you wouldn't have to do that part. So now we're doing 1 onion, 4 garlic cloves. Next up, lime juice. You're going to need 1/4 of a cup, or you could use the juice from 3 large limes. Here comes the spice. Canned chipotle peppers in adobo sauce. This recipe is on page 171 of the all-new Ball Book of Canning and Preserving, and the recipe calls for 3 to 4 cans of these hot chipotle peppers in adobo sauce. There's number 3. And here is 4. I can tell you for sure that if you don't like that much spice, I would cut it back to just 3 cans. Now you're going to puree this till it is completely emulsified. Transfer your mixture to a large stainless steel or enameled saucepan. You're going to bring it to a boil and then remove from heat. And then you are ready to start your canning. I have a hot jar there. It's actually a 1/2 pint jar. And you want to fill it with your salsa up to where you have a 1/2 inch of headspace. Be sure to clean your rim of your jar there with a paper towel that's been dipped in vinegar. Add your very hot lid and your ring, and you're going to process in a water bath canner. You're going to process this recipe of salsa for 25 minutes. Now, as you will see here, this recipe using the 4 cans of the chipotle peppers filled 5 1/2-pint jars. So you wouldn't get that many if you used 3 cans. Another thing I wanted to mention here, make sure that you keep that headspace right at a 1/2 inch. You may still get some siphoning from this, and if you do, it's quite gooey and sticky, so it's very, very important to clean those jars afterwards. Time for a taste test. It sure smells hot. Did you know that manicotti shells or crepes are really quite easy to make from scratch? I am making a half a recipe here with a half a cup of flour, about an eighth of a teaspoon of salt, and a half a cup of water. Now this half batch is going to make 7 manicotti crepes. You want to whisk the flour, the salt, and the water together in a large bowl about 20 times. Next, you're going to add in 2 eggs, but you want to do so one at a time, and I crack them in a separate bowl just to make sure that there aren't any little pieces of shell. With each egg, you want to whisk it about 5, 6, 7 whisks. Something that's interesting when you're looking up different recipes for making homemade manicotti shells or crepes is that a lot of people will use milk and some will use water. And it's really just dependent upon what region of Italy from which they come based on what they use. Now you can see here that you want it pretty thin. It's a little bit like pancake batter, only thinner, and it has a pasta flavor, not bread. Now to cook them, you want to use a small pan, and excuse my dirty pan there. It is about an 8-inch around the outside and about a 4 to 5-inch on the inside. You want to rub the pan with your olive oil saturated paper towel in between cooking poured pasta batter. Now I'm going to pour in a ladle of batter into the hot pan, approximately a little less than a 1/4 of a cup. Pour it in all at once, then you want to pick up your pan and swirl around 3 times. And then place it back down onto the stove. Now you're going to wait about 25 seconds before you're ready to flip your pasta crepe over. Scooting it across the stove like that just helps to even the heat across it all. You can use a flexible pastry knife to help you get under it, and it will be very easy to flip. It will not ever be stuck. Once you flip it, don't put it back down on the heat. In fact, you just want to kind of hold it there for a few seconds, and then you want to immediately flip it over onto a floured board. And you can flip it a couple of times in the flour to cool it a little. Aren't those beautiful? And don't worry, they're not going to stick together at all. And there's a third one. So just one more time, we're going to repeat this over and over until you run out of batter. And this little amount will make 7 manicotti crepes. So I've poured my batter in just a little less than a 1/4 cup, swirled it around 3 times, set it on the stove. Only going to keep it there for about 25 seconds. You never want your manicotti crepes to be golden. They need to be on the whitish side. If they're golden or brown, then they've been overcooked. So again, once you flip it, don't put it back on the heat. Just a little, hold it a little above it and turn it onto your floured board. Next, it's time to make the filling for our Chipotle Manicotti bake. And you need 1 15-ounce carton of ricotta cheese, and you can use part skim if you'd like. You also are going to need a cup of shredded part skim or not mozzarella cheese. Mine is fresh mozzarella, and it is not part skim. So grating it is a little bit of a challenge because it is fresh mozzarella. So it's kind of more like a squish it through the grater to get it into smaller pieces. Additionally, you're going to add 2 green onions chopped, about 1/8 of a cup of chopped fresh cilantro, and you need 1 large egg lightly beaten. Get that all mixed together, and it's going to be time to assemble. First, on a greased baking dish, you want to spread about 1/4 of a cup of your Chipotle salsa, and then you're going to start filling your manicotti crepes. I kind of just eyeballed my mix and tried to kind of think visually about dividing it into 7 sections, and they work pretty well because I didn't have to alter anything. You want to roll it up and then place it in your baking dish and repeat until all 7 are done. Lastly, you're going to use the rest of that 1 cup of Chipotle Tomatillo Salsa and spread it out over all the top of your manicotti. And you're going to bake it in a preheated oven, 350 degrees, for 20 minutes. You want to bake it uncovered and then bring it out, and you've got one more thing to add. After 20 minutes of baking, you want to pull it out and sprinkle on 1 cup of shredded pepper jack cheese. And back in the oven it's going to go for 10 minutes. At the end of its cooking time, you need to let it rest again for another 10 minutes before serving it up. This rich manicotti has the added spiciness that I love in Mexican cuisine. Hope you enjoyed. Bye, and have a good one.